Honestly, my reading year so far has been pretty crap, but someone pointed out to me that I've been reading a lot of big books and I feel so much better about it now. If you want, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be the Mid Year Book Freakout, which is one of my favorite book tags to do every year. This is going to be my third or fourth one, which is kind of crazy. I feel like this year things have been a little weird. I feel like a lot of people probably feel the same. I have read 28, 30-ish books so far this year. Usually I should be about like 50 at this point. So things have not been, as good as they could have. However, I want to do this video because we want to, celebrate whatever we read so far that was good. But mostly we want to start fresh for the next 6 months and just get excited about all the upcoming releases or just next reads that I'm going to be getting into, because I feel like, I shouldn't say that out loud, but let's just whisper it. I think the slum is almost gone. So, let's celebrate. So question number one, what's the best book that I've read so far in 2020? So in order not to repeat myself for question number two, we're gonna go with this book. I have technically only read four books that I gave 5 stars to on Goodreads. This one was technically a 4.5 stars, but you know what? My channel, my rules. This is going to be the one I talk about. This is The Three Body Problem, and it is a hard sci-fi adult one, and I really enjoyed the concepts in this series so far. I have read so far the first 2 books. I am going to read the third one very soon, hopefully. And although whenever I describe it, I feel like I'm always mentioning the negative, but if you haven't seen my channel, I tend to do that. I just find that it's easier to kind of mention these things and then just rave after that if I feel the need to. But yes, the first half in the first 2 books are kind of just slow and things like, it takes a while for it to like pick up, but then the second half just blows my mind every time. And again, very science heavy, but the concepts are just fascinating. It is a first contact with aliens series, and the first book literally starts with like the aliens on their way, to Earth. So you don't have to wait, till the end of the last book in the trilogy to really get to that point. So it's very, very interesting. And yes, if that's your jam, you really, really need to get to that series. It took me a while to actually do that because 1, they're intimidating. 2nd, I had read the first chapter in a like try chapter book tag, which I need to do one of those with some books I'm thinking about unhauling. So let me know if you want to see that, because I probably should do that more often because I find it's just so fun, especially when you're in a slump. So again, note to self, do that. So the first chapter was really slow and heavy, and I don't know if it's the translation, but it's also the beginning of the book starts with the China's Cultural Revolution. So it's pretty dark, but yes, I'm very happy I ended up pushing through and getting to that second half, which again is super interesting. I don't want to say too much because I feel like if you go into these pretty open-minded and not knowing a lot, you're probably going to enjoy these if you already like sci-fi, obviously. So this was definitely, maybe not the best, but definitely worth being mentioned as the best of the year, because question number 2 is the best sequel that I've read in 2020, and it needed to be this book because this year I've been doing little challenges most months, and one of them was to try and continue series. So I read a couple, and this is obviously the one I need to mention here. This is Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. The first book was Skyward. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about it. It is a YA sci-fi series. Clearly, the best books that I've read so far this year are definitely sci-fi. These 2 other ones are actually nonfiction, so that's my year so far. But I was really nervous once again to get into that one because a lot of people were mentioning that the second book was completely different. A lot of people were actually disappointed, so I was really nervous, but no, it's still really, really good. I think it's because the first book really focuses on the remnant of humanity being attacked by aliens. They're stuck on this little planet, and you see the character grow quite a bit, and it's really focused on her becoming a pilot. But in this one, it becomes so much bigger because you kind of learn more about the aliens. There's a lot of political intrigue, and I absolutely adored it. Definitely totally recommend it. I still think it's funny. I still think like you can see the world growing and getting bigger and bigger, so you can tell that the next 2 books are probably going to get even more interesting. So personally, huge thumbs up. Definitely the best sequel that I've read this year so far. This is where things get really good. I feel like some of these answers, it's kind of like either you already know what's going to happen, or I feel like I haven't had that many exciting reads because my year has been a little but the new stuff, yes please. Question number 3, a new release you haven't read yet but you want to. I have 2 I want to mention. The first one is, this is The Girl in the Stars by Mark Lawrence. I have been dying to read this. I actually was sent this arc, but it was sent to my old address, so I thought maybe, it got lost or they forgot about me or something. And I'm super happy it's finally here. So I'm going to be able to read this. This is going to be my next, once I'm done the one I'm currently reading, this is the one I will be reading right after because, oh my God, This is a companion series to the Ancestor series, also by Mark Lawrence, obviously. The first book being Red Sister, which I've raved about a ton last year. Absolutely adore it, totally recommend it. I think my only complaint when I mentioned the last book was the fact that I wanted more from this universe, and here it is. So very excited. It looks, you know, a bit short, but it's like almost 400 pages, so I can't really say that, but like I just want so much more. Super interesting, fantasy, like magical powers. Magic system is the word I was looking for, and the world is really interesting because it's kind of like apocalyptic a little too, and that mix is just bomb to me. So yes, looking forward to reading that one. The other one is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the same author, Susan Collins? Same author as Hunger Games. I feel like everyone has been talking about this. It's a prequel, and like, you know how the rumors were saying was going to be about Mag, but then it turned out it was about President Snow, and everyone was really disappointed, me included. And I feel like so far the reviews have been really negative, but I'm hoping I'm gonna like this. Let me know, would you want me to reread the Hunger Games trilogy first, or should I just jump into it? Maybe do a reading vlog about it? You decide in the comment section. It's like, you decide your own adventure here, or my adventure. But yes, I'm still excited to read it just because I remember loving Hunger Games. I feel like a lot of people started shitting on these type of books when it came out, but I thought they were very readable, and I love PETA, so has nothing to do with this one, but you know, I don't know. I've heard really bad things, but I'm still excited. It's like my 2020. Most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. Technically the question mentions one, but I am mentioning a ton because I am so excited, which is a really good thing because again, we want to get out of that slump. So let me help you add books to your TBR. Are you ready? Get that paper ready, or you know, your phone, take notes, because the first one is The Invisible Life of Eddie Larue by V.E. Schwab. I've talked about that one. It's in my summer TBR. I got an arc basically, which I'm very excited about. And it's following, it's the love story between a French woman and the devil over 300 years, which yes, it sounds like a romance, but I will absolutely devour this, let you know how it goes. I do really love V. Schwab's writing, so I'm very, very excited, and I'm sure a lot of you too, so I will read this again as soon as possible and let you know how it goes, but definitely put that on your TBR for sure. Another one that I'm so dying to read is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I'm pretty sure this is coming out in October, but are you ready? I think the description on Goodreads is something like in a library, like where every book is a different version of your life that you could have chosen. Yes. So we'll read this as soon as I can get my hands on it. There's also The Devil and Dark Water by Stuart Turton, which is the same author that wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which was one of my favorite books 2 years ago when it came out. I said I would read anything else he comes out with. Here we are. I have to, you know, do it. I don't remember what it is exactly. I know they now added it on Goodreads, so definitely go and check that out. But I mean, I said I was going to read it anyway, so I'm excited anyway. There's also Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This one I'm a little so-so, not gonna lie, but I still wanted to mention it because I know a lot of people are going to be excited. I think it's coming out this summer. I believe I do have the arc on Ngali, so I will be reading it again this summer. I do get excited about like mystery thrillers during like summer and then fall, and I've read all 3 of his books, so again, if you want to see like a reading vlog maybe, ooh, maybe. I need to do more of them. But yes, that's definitely something I'm excited to read because again, the first one I read was the last time I lied, and it was by far my favorite one, and it was like very summery actually. If you're looking for like a summer field kind of book to read on the beach maybe, it happens at a summer camp, so I feel like it really gave those vibes, and yes, I'm hoping this one will be as good in my head. Another one I'm really excited about, I told you there was a list, Beautifully Foolish and Deviant, can't say that in English, by Hank Green, which is book 2 after, I have it on my shelf right here, where is it? An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which is another adult sci-fi, but it's a very accessible one. I kind of want to say that it's in between YA and adult. I tend to say that, and I insult a few people by saying that. I'm sorry. I just feel like it's very readable and accessible for YA readers. There you go. It's someone that becomes basically famous on YouTube overnight and First Contact with Aliens. But again, even if you don't really like sci-fi, I highly recommend you check that out. It was one of the most surprising reads that I read. Was it last year or the year before? So yes, book 2. I didn't even think we would get a sequel, so obviously very excited. And we also have this 4th book in the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson, which some of you might be like, dude, you haven't even finished the first one yet. No, I haven't, but I'm still very excited. I think it's called Rhythm of War, so motivation to finish that book. So far it's really good, it's just the slump really. Then last but not least, because I have a list longer than the books I've read so far this year pretty much. A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, which is the same author as, what was the book by her? I didn't really care for it, but I wanted to read this one because it is a magical school, which I mentioned a few times. It's one of my favorite tropes, so yes. Honestly, you tell me there's a magical school or magic system that sounds interesting, I will read the book. Now, sadly, questions I can easily answer. Question number 5, biggest disappointment. My whole year so far. Real talk, I think the biggest one would have to be, I've talked about it already because I did a few book tags and this was definitely in here, but let me quickly mention again how much I hated this. Okay, let me reword this. This is The Secret Commonwealth by Philip Pullman. This is the second book in a companion series of Is Dark Materials, which is one of the best sci-fi series I've ever read. You can read it as a kid or as an adult and it's amazing. The first book, which was La Belle Sauvage, was a prequel and it was pretty disappointing to me. I felt like it was like a long prologue, like a 600 pages prologue. And this is an actual follow-up to the series. You're following Lyra when she's 20, and that is literally what I've been waiting for my whole life, literally. It starts really interesting in the sense that you're following her and Pantalémon. I'm gonna say it French because that's what I've always done in my head. And they're like fighting and it's so heartbreaking. It's not a spoiler. And yes, that part was fine, it's the beginning. But it took me 3 months to read this book because I just couldn't get into it. I had so many issues with it. Like the authors doing... I'll link down below my Goodreads review if you want to see the spoilers, basically, because I'll just mention that there's an attempted rape scene in here, which makes absolutely no sense. The character just doesn't even care afterwards. Hated it. I had so many issues with it. So a huge letdown. I did not expect any of this from this author. I think I just will pretend this duology, well, no, series doesn't exist. I will still read the third one when it comes out, but I really thought I was going to love this. So huge disappointment, obviously. Another one is Middlegame by Shauna Marie. I had been mentioning forever, really, that I wanted more by her. I've tried a few of her other books, including some written under Mira Grant, I think, which is another pen name of hers. And basically my main complaint was always that I wanted more like bigger books because I did enjoy her writing in the We Were Children series, especially the fourth book. It's my favorite one. You can read it as a standalone, by the way, if you want to try it. But yes, her writing is beautiful, but I just felt like I didn't get enough satisfaction from books that were like 200 pages. So this one is like a chunky one. It's like 600 pages, I think. And it sucked. It just really did. It's probably going to be in my worst or most disappointing books of 2020. I didn't care about the story. I didn't care about some of the choices that were made. I didn't care about the ending. The main characters are called Roger and Dodger. Like the only good thing was the magical power, the like superpowers. It's like the two characters are like linked by like quantum entanglement, and their powers are linked to like numbers and like language. That's literally the only good thing about the whole thing. So yes, I don't think I've heard anyone mention that they liked this book. I would be curious if you did. Obviously, like no judgment whatsoever, but like, did you? Did anyone? Biggest surprise. I haven't been really pleasantly surprised much, but maybe. Let's go with this one because I think it's funny. I wasn't surprised that I overall enjoyed it, but I was surprised that after hating the first half, I ended up liking the second half. Does that count? I don't have any better answer than this one, so let's go with that. The Dark Forest, which is the second book after The Three Body Problem. So the first half is absolutely horrible, like literally horrible. The main character is imagining is like ideal woman, and she's like the whole stereotype, like the whole Chinese stereotype, and like she's all childish, no, child looking, and I hated it. But again, the second half is just so I'm very like confused about how I feel about this book. I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but like I am guaranteeing you it's because I was listening to it as an audiobook, and the first 55% I hated, and then the audiobook was returned, I got it again and finished the rest and loved it. So I think that's why I overall enjoyed the book. But yes, again, be warned, the first half, yeah. Or maybe I could mention Invisible Women. I don't know if it's that surprising that I enjoyed it, but if you're looking for a nonfiction that is really interesting, the author was actually really, she's the one narrating the audiobook, which is how I went through it, and she is just so sassy in some of those like description that she gives. You can just tell by her tone that she's had enough, and it was really, really great. Definitely kind of heavy to read, and frustrating, very, very frustrating, but if you're looking for a really interesting nonfiction, I highly recommend that one for sure. Which I don't know if that could count as like my new favorite author, maybe. I think she has written one more book, which I have not checked out yet. I feel like I haven't been like going out of my comfort zone a lot. I've been reading a lot of books written by authors that I already knew and liked mostly. But again, I've had such a weird year this year so far. So number 8 is newest fictional crush. We've already established I don't get crushes from books. I will like find some characters super wholesome. For example, Doomslug from Starsight and Skyward. Does that count? If you've read those books, you understand. Otherwise, you think I'm insane. So it's okay. Question number 9, newest favorite character. I can't think of it. I can't think of anyone. How sad is this? This is how my year has been. Please let me in the comment section your favorite one, because I need some new fantastic characters. I feel like I will get some from The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which is my current read. Like I can feel like some characters I'm starting to get attached to them. I'm terrible with names though, so I can't name any. But yes, that will be my answer, even though I'm not naming anyone, and that's totally pointless. Question number 10, book that made you cry from frustration? Invisible Women. But otherwise, I haven't been that invested in any characters so far this year, which again, kind of sad. We will change that, hopefully, in the second half of the year, because I want some of that in my life. Because no, I haven't found anyone yet. Please, again, let me know your favorite ones, because I want my second half of the year to go really well. Number 11, book that made you happy. I think the closest thing I can think of is my current read once again, which is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. So far, I'm like starting to get excited about it. So maybe the slump is going away. Question number 12 is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. I haven't done a lot of hauls this year. I think I've only technically done 2 that were like this year. So that's completely unusual for me, but I mean, everything is closed and you know. But I have 2 books to mention that I mentioned. I think it was in February. The first one is a nearly normal family, which hopefully the camera will give it justice. Otherwise, maybe I should just put it on the screen. But it looks pretty cool. And I remember saying in the haul video that I got it due to cover, which I don't do cover buys a lot. But this one just seemed intriguing, and it's a mystery thriller, so I don't like to know too much when I go into them. So, and the other one is this one, which Fates and Furies. I always want to say furry, which is not the same thing, Emily. Which again, pretty cool cover. I don't know much about the book, but looks pretty, which is the question. Number 13 is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? As always, all of them. But specifically, I did earlier this year a video that I do every year, but this year was the 20 books I want to read in 2020, which somehow magically ended up being 20 minutes and 20 seconds, which I didn't realize until people commented about it, which, if that's not a sign. So I went back and looked, and I've only read 3 books so far from that list. Dude, we talked about this. Like I said, this year I was actually achieving that goal. In my defense, I'm currently in the middle of a 4th one, and my summer TBR consists mostly of books from that list. So, but yes, I need to really get there. But you can look forward to me reading things like, I had to, I'm sorry. I do want to read it. But one of the things I do absolutely want to read before the end of the year and vlog is, because I haven't read this yet, and I feel like according to reviews and just people's opinion really, I will either love it or hate this, and I know either way you guys will want to see it, so reading vlog will most likely be in order. But yes, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which I waited this long to read it because of the hype and the fact that the third book is not even announced yet. So I do have the second book on my shelf. If I do like it, I will obviously continue the series, but this is definitely, probably, most likely the number one book that everyone wants me to read this year. So we can do this. So this was my 2020 mid-year book freakout. Please let me know in the comment section your answers to these questions. Let me know if you feel similarly or completely differently about some of these opinions. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, because you definitely don't want to miss any future videos. And I will be putting on the screen more books, more videos that I recommend you check out. And I shall see you in my next one very soon. Bye.